I'm going out, I gotta go. I'll bang a rang on the radio. So turn it up, I'm telling you. I think I'm ready for something new. Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza. Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza.
You're listening to Pop Punkin' Pizza with Jacques Lamour.
Hello and welcome to Pop Punkin' Pizza. I'm Jacques Lamour, your host. So grateful to have you here as always. So today we're going to be offering up two different slices of pizza, and I'll explain that here in just uno momento. But first I want to introduce our guests, and then we'll get into that. So on this episode, we happen to have a few fellow podcasters. They had me on their podcast recently, and they host a weekly show that asks, "What's your bacon?" And what's that extra passion in your life that makes everything in it better? So please welcome Mike and Jimmy G from Bacon Is My Podcast. Hello, guys. What's up?
What's up?
What's up, dude?
How are you both?
Cold.
We are excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
It
Cold.
just snowed here, and it sucks.
Yeah.
You're right. You guys. To specify, you guys are in New York.
Yes.
Yes.
You're in like Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just outside the city. We just got hit by everything that you saw that we were getting hit with.
Yeah, we got clobbered. It
That
was
the East Coast was getting hit with.
So how much snow did you get?
So, it depended on. So further east, you got way worse. I think they got like 2 to 3 feet.
Okay.
But we got like 12 to 18 inches.
Right.
Holy hell.
And
Yeah.
what sucked about it though was there were gusts of 55 mile per hour winds.
Oh, dude.
And it sustained like 20 mile per hour winds. So I had to shovel out like a 3-foot snowdrift up against the garage studio here
Yeah.
prior to this. So that was
Damn.
that was a lot of fun. And he was almost not able to get out of his apartment.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how the hell did you? How did you get to? Are you guys in the same town? Or are you just a couple towns away?
no.
Or
Couple towns away. I'm like 15 minutes away from Mike, and
Okay.
I live in a legally suspect basement apartment with my girlfriend, and there's no front entrance, so it's like a fenced in yard, and then
Okay.
our exit is through a porch in the backyard. So
Nice.
snowdrifts build up, and then we can't open the doors to the porch, and then we just can't leave.
Yeah.
We just can't go anywhere.
So
Hunker
you're
down,
like-
buddy.
So you like call a friend and be like, "Hey, can you can you
Yeah,
scoop me
it's-
out?" Like,
Our landlords are awesome, and they usually they have a snowblower, and they'll get most of it, and then we'll jump out and help them shovel the driveway and all that kind of stuff.
oh, that's
But
good.
they left for the weekend, so it was literally Saturday night
man.
or Friday night, I think it was, when all the snow was happening. I was
Dude.
going outside every couple of hours and shoveling from our porch door around to our fence door to get out to the front, a little walkway, just hoping that the snow wouldn't cover it up. So I shoveled it like 3 times before I went to bed, and then in the morning it was still covered up, but enough to get out. I could still open the door.
Thank God. I'm glad you got out to to do this podcast, man. So before we dive super deep into conversation, let's talk about this pizza spread that we have.
Yeah.
This
I'm
is
excited.
I don't think I've ever done this on any episode of the podcast. And with the pandemic that's been going on the last 2 years, there hasn't been a ton of pizza consumption. I mean, there has, but not as much as there was pre-pandemic. Like pre-pandemic, It was literally like every episode.
Right.
So what we decided to do when I recorded an episode of Bacon Is My Podcast, like after we did that, we were just kind of talking about, okay, what are we going to do for, Pop Punkin' Pizza? We're like, how about I buy you pizza from Chicago, have it sent to you, and then you guys buy me New York style pizza and have it sent to me, and we'll both like eat each other's local cuisine. And so that's what we got going on here. So I'd like to have you tell me about the pizza you bought me, and then I can tell you about like the pizza I bought you. So
Absolutely. So
James was on pizza detail.
I was on Pizza Detail.
yeah.
So
So what is this? Doesn't this look magnificent?
it looks so
I
good.
know a person
Yeah.
might be listening and not watching the video, but this just looks amazing, doesn't it?
So I chose for you it's like a forever New York staple, Nicoletta's Pizza, and they do the traditional hand tossed slice. They kind of with their sauce, they kind of do a circular sauce kind of.
Yeah, and you can see that
yeah.
if you're watching
Yeah.
the video version of this right now, you can kind of see that circular
Yeah,
thing
so
going
you
on.
get these stripes of sauce, and then the cheese is intermingled. It's just delicious. It's foldable. It's big slices. It's quintessential kind of like
Thin slice,
New
yeah.
York thin style. Eat it on the go. Walk around with it. Pizza.
Yeah.
I've had it a bunch of times. I had a hard time choosing, honestly, because Brooklyn has amazing pizza. Staten Island has amazing pizza, and I sometimes defer to the boroughs because a lot of tourists come into New York, and so a lot of like your dollar pizza places
Yeah.
and stuff like that don't give you that real New York slice.
No,
But
they don't.
Nicoletta's, Joe's, Patsy's, those are all really
So is Nicoletta? Do they have? I assume they have multiple locations then throughout the boroughs, or
a couple in the city, and that's it.
okay, so they're just in Manhattan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
As far as I
cool.
know, I'm not exactly sure. They might have a spot in Brooklyn, but I think it's only Manhattan.
Okay, awesome.
One thing I will say though, and you know, Nicoletta's is great, but as far as New York City pizza, still by far my favorite pizza from New York City, Roses.
Roses,
But it's closed down now. So
Oh,
it's-
that's a bummer.
he's talking about a place in Penn Station that you can eat pizza at 3 a.m., which is and yes, they have a million different pies coming out, and you can get anything you
the
want.
slices are the size of your head.
They are the size of your head, and they are cheap. But if you're going for pure flavor to a person who's not intoxicated, I will push you towards Nicoletta's, Joe's,
Nicoletta's. Okay.
Patsy's. But
You know-
Roses is great. I love Roses too.
You remind me of Mike. That reminds me of a place here in the South Side of Chicago, and there's a lot of different places like this. It's called Nona's, and it's a slice place. I mean, you can order a full pizza, of course, there and other things too, but you can just walk in there, get a huge giant, and like you said, like the size of your head.
Yeah.
Right.
And it used to be $5. I'm sure it's gone up now because everything has gone up with the pandemic.
Right.
It's probably up to $6 or $7. I bet. I wouldn't be surprised at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's ridiculous of how big it is. Like it's so big, they have to like cut it in half because
Right.
it's so big. And so, so it, like if you really wanted to, if you wanted to be like, I guess a little more conscious of your eating habits, you would only eat like half of it or maybe a quarter of it, and then you two people could share
One
a
slice.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
So, but
well, Rose's Pizza was purely to soak up the alcohol
Yes.
that you have just consumed,
Yes.
and while you're waiting for your train. But also, you could buy giant beers from there too, that they encourage drinking from straws.
See, there's
Well,
a lot of things going
There's a
on.
lot to unpack there.
Which is
There's
why,
a-
which is
It's
why
not
I
there
was on
anymore.
pizza duty.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good
Well,
point, good point.
I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna take a bite of mine real quick, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about what you guys have on your end.
Absolutely.
So, because
Yes.
this just absolutely smells delicious, and it's been driving me crazy ever since
Go
it
into
came
it,
out of the
man.
oven.
Do it
So
up.
here we go.
Napkins, by the way.
Oh man, that is so good. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's solid. I gotta give a
Nice.
round of applause for that.
Beautiful.
I love the cheese combination, whatever it is, the mixture.
Yeah, I
Super
wish
good.
I had the answer to tell you, but
Well-
I do not know.
I don't think I've got the little card that
Yeah.
it came with, but it doesn't say. But Yeah, no, I'm sold, man. If I'm ever back in New York, I'm gonna find Nicoletta.
It takes you
Yeah.
back, right? You
Yeah.
think New York when you taste it. You just kind of get that
I
bite, and you're
do.
just kind of like, oh man, I remember when I was in New York.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is making me actually miss New York right now. And my brother, who was living in New York, now he just moved to Hawaii, so I'm gonna have to visit him there and
Beautiful.
try Hawaiian pizza. And I'm sure it's got
Pineapple and spam.
pineapple. It's got pineapple and spam on it, probably. Yeah, you nailed it. Totally nailed it. So, all right, so now it's your guys' turn.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Want to
So-
display it real quick?
Yeah, let's display that bad boy. So that is Lou Malnati's, and it is one of, if not the oldest family name in Chicago pizza. They have a very rich history in Chicago pizza. So Lou Malnati, obviously he was a guy. He was a really awesome guy. He started the his his pizza crafting in the 1940s, and he actually worked at Chicago's first deep dish pizza place, restaurant, pizzeria, and
Okay.
so I think that alone, that little bit of information alone, I think is what really fueled Lou Malnati's to be like the name when it comes to deep dish pizza in Chicago. Um, and and so I mean that just kind of sums it up in a brief moment. Another funny thing is that it's Italian cuisine. He's Italian, but he opened up a pizzeria. The first one, it was in a Jewish neighborhood in Chicago. It wasn't Italian. He opened it in a Jewish neighborhood, and he opened it on a Irish holiday. So,
Fantastic.
Wow.
that's another, yeah. So yeah, and they've got dozens of Chicago area locations there. They also opened up a spot in Indianapolis. I don't know if it's just one location or multiple. And then they've got, I think there's one, I could be wrong. I think there's one in Milwaukee. And
Nice.
then Phoenix, Arizona. They've
Oh,
got
okay.
they're located there. So those are obviously relatively newer. They were mainly just in the greater Chicago area, whether it was downtown or one of the suburbs. And then they've kind of, excuse me, they've been branching out. So, and I believe you guys chose the cheese one, right?
Yeah.
We did. Now I'll full disclosure.
Our theory.
Jimmy G. I'm from Indiana. I have been to Chicago many times. I've had Lou Malnati's, so this is not new to me. I'm super excited about it.
This is new
It's
to me.
new for Mike, so I'm excited to hear Mike's take on it. And we chose cheese mostly because of me and I have this thing with pizza places where I feel like if you can't make a good regular slice, nothing else you do is going to hide your inadequacies.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a bite of this. Cheers, my
Cheers,
friend.
my friend.
Let's do
Awesome.
this.
Mm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is not like New York pizza
Oh, this takes me back.
at all. It's almost like a casserole,
It's not.
not in a bad way.
It's not like a casserole.
I mean, a lot of people like casseroles. There's nothing wrong with
They
casserole.
do, but this
I
As
is
long
like
as
not.
it tastes good, right?
I don't say it like in a negative way.
Yeah, the thing,
Man, that's good.
I think one of the biggest things is, and I don't know all the ingredients that are in Lou Malnati's crust. I hope to learn one day soon. But it has like a corn flavor almost.
Yeah, that
Like to
cornmeal.
me,
Cornmeal
yeah, it's
crust.
like cornmeal. Yeah, so that's like one of the things you'll find in Chicago deep dish pizza, and I'm sure other deep dishes around the country you find that to be a common thing. But specifically, I know that's like one of the many traits of
Mhm.
Chicago deep dish.
Now we just found out today. Apparently, although in New York, Buffalo style pizza is very much like this.
Okay, interesting. Like Buffalo, New York.
Uh huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Buffalo, they kind of they kind of adopted the deep dish, thicker crust style.
Okay. Is it like a so is it as thick as like Lou Malnati's you're eating right now, or is it more like a pan
I don't know.
thickness?
I'm not
We don't
sure
know.
yet.
We just found that out today.
Yeah, we literally
That's interesting.
we had a guest on our show
Mm-hmm.
that's in Buffalo,
Okay.
and we were talking to him about it, and he was talking about it's very like Detroit style. So I believe it's probably a thicker crust
Okay. Yeah.
because Detroit style is a little bit more like pillowy and thick,
Yes.
whereas Chicago to me it's got like almost there's like a thin pie crust type of feel around the edge. And then you've got your thick crust. I love that the cheese is on the crust first. And
Yeah.
the tomato sauce is like sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. This is so good.
Well,
This
in
this
New,
I'm this is really good too. By the way, I can't get over how good it is. And what I like is it's thin, but it's not like floppy thin. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that about it as well. But so now that we're diving into the pizza, everyone's enjoying themselves.
Right.
Thank you, by the way, for letting me be on Bacon is My podcast. That was a ton of fun. It was one of the most fun I've ever had on someone else's podcast. So thank you for that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Awesome.
Where did you two meet? And I guess what Jimmy, what brought you from New York, or what brought you from Indiana? I'm sorry, to New York, and where I can't remember if you told me where in Indiana you're from.
I grew up kind of all over the place. We moved to Indiana when I was in like 5th grade. So that's kind of where I spent the most time. Before that, it was like Ohio, Kansas, New Hampshire, Iowa. I was kind of all over the place.
Now, why all the
So-
moving around?
I think it was really a case of my dad just kind of like being one of those people that like chases opportunity. And so it was like, hey, I have this opportunity to get a better job. Let's do it. And so we just kind of moved and did it and kind of shifted and did those things. And that was always just kind of part of it. And then once I got into around like 4th, 5th grade, my mom had my brother and then was pregnant with my other brother. And it was kind of like, okay, we got to settle this down and kind of give them a place to all stay and grow up.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And we did that in Indiana. When I was about 18, 19, is when I first kind of like moved out of home and decided that I wanted to kind of live somewhere else. And I was looking at New York and I was looking at California because I'm a musician. And I was like, oh, I need to go where the industry is. And I want to go where I hear everything is, like all my heroes were from either coast, and so I flipped a coin and New York was heads and California was tails. Landed on heads, came to New York, did a whole lot of different music and band stuff, and then eventually landed in Long Island. And the band I was in Long Island ended up at a studio where we were playing shows with Mike's band.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we figured out that we were at the same studio. So we started a prank war and started playing pranks on each other in the studio because we were like, oh, these guys are cool and we're fun and we enjoy playing pranks on each other. And so we created a prank war and we became friends out of that. We figured out that we both were fans of the same kind of music. We were the fans of professional wrestling, fans of comic books, comic movies, things like that. We liked a lot of the same stuff, and we just kind of gravitated towards each other and became friends and have hung out and gotten closer throughout all the years after that. And our bands have stayed friends and everything, but even through different bands and stuff, we just kind of like kept hanging out.
Yeah. And it's always been one of those things. And when you're in a band, you find that person that you can confide in and that person that you can be like, I hate my band. So we've We've always
What?
you don't hate the music you're doing, but there's the conflicting personalities and things like
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
I mean,
No, I
so
totally I totally get what you're saying.
but we were always kind
You've
of
been in bands.
Yeah,
I
relax.
no
Sean,
no no
come
no.
on.
No, believe me, I totally get it.
But yeah, we were always kind of that person to each other. You know, we saw each other's work ethic, and we were always like, man, we need to do something together. We need to
Yeah.
do something together. And we started writing together, and we wrote like 12 songs. And then all of a sudden, his band started getting like opportunities, and my band started getting opportunities, and we were kind of like, okay, we'll revisit this. And so that happened a couple of times, and then the pandemic happened, and we still played shows together and still complained about our respective bands together. And like it's just a part of the band
Dynamic.
relationship,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dynamic and stuff.
Well,
You gotta have that person,
It's a family. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad. I mean,
Right.
Right.
You don't
Right.
choose them,
Right.
sort of.
well,
But,
yeah, you do, but yeah.
Right. But the pandemic happened. Jim texted me out of the blue, just kind of saying, "Hey man, buddy of mine is putting a movie together. He needs some music for it. You wanna kind of do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." He shows up and he's like, "Cool, we this has to be done in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, okay. And what do we have to do now?" I'm a metal, hard rock metal guy, and he's like a straightforward rock and roll kind of guy. And he's like, "Yeah, he's thinking like Dusk Till Dawn, grungy Mexican bar,
Tito
kind
and
of
the Tarantulas.
Tarantulas kind of vibe." And we were like, "Okay, cool." So we write the song, get it recorded within a week, and all done. And a couple of times friends have asked us, they were like, "Hey, we'd love to be a fly on the wall, like see what is happening." So we were like, screw it. We spend the first hour of when we get together talking. Let's just throw a camera on and talk. And that's what we started doing. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was like, maybe I'll just shoot an email out to this person or that person, see if they want to be a guest. And that's how we ended up like getting guests.
Right.
It started with
and then becoming a podcast with guests.
Some wrestlers. We had
musicians,
and, people from Rivals,
other podcasters,
other
like yourself.
podcasters, and
Rivals, yeah. I was gonna say we've had some of the same people on. Like,
Yeah.
I had Kaylee on the podcast as well, and she was super fun. She was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
She's
we had
awesome,
we
yeah.
had Kaylee, we had Mickett. But yeah, it was just like one of those things where we started getting guests, and he was like, "Cool, let's do a guest like every other episode." And I said, "Cool, that's cool." But as musicians, we know what you need to do is just throw a bunch of shit against the wall and see what sticks.
I don't know if we can curse on this show.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I've listened to the show. So.
I have too, but I'm still like.
So you just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall, and then
Yeah.
you see what sticks, and then all of a sudden, we had this barrage of people just going, "Yeah, we'll come on."
Yeah.
And here we are over a year later, still getting super cool and interesting guests and stuff.
Finding out what their bacon is.
Yeah, and
Yeah. So how did that come about? You start putting camera on when you're like during your writing sessions or right before your songwriting sessions?
before,
Yeah.
And so where does the bacon? Bacon is my podcast. Where does the
you get into
bacon come? Where does the
Sure.
analogy? I know obviously it's an analogy, but yeah, where does that come in? Like, is one of you obsessed with bacon, or both of you, or
Wait,
and it's so
well,
funny. Like
yes.
this is the
Are there
question.
people not obsessed with bacon?
I mean, probably, because the world is filled with such people. Unfortunately, not to upset you or anything. But I think that probably exists. There are people like that somewhere.
There probably are. There probably are.
Yeah.
I guess we'll accept them.
So the whole bacon thing, honestly, what it was is it started as just this kind of funny thing. A number of years ago, I was offered to do a show during Christmas time, and every year I would do a show for a foundation out here called Toys of Hope, and it would bring toys. It would raise money to give toys to Long Island families, and it was very local. And so every year I would do a show with them, and my band would do a show with them. And they asked me one year to do a show, and my band wasn't available. And I was like, oh man, like I still kind of want to do it. And so I asked Mike, I was like, hey, you want to do this thing with me? Like, it's just, well, I don't know what we're going to do, but let's just do it. And he said yes, of course. And so it was kind of like, okay, let's throw ourselves into figuring out what we're going to do. And it was literally like, okay, we're going to go with a couple of acoustic guitars. I'll learn one or two of your songs. You learn a couple of my songs, and we'll accompany each other. We'll do harmonies and stuff. And then at the time on YouTube, there was the Ben the Intruder thing and Double Rainbow were huge. If anybody listening remembers Double Rainbow and Ben the Intruder song, but it was like Auto-Tune the News.
Yeah,
was the people that did the Ben the Intruder, and that was the whole "How'd you kids, how'd you wife?"
Okay, I was gonna say, was that the
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was Double Rainbow all the way across the sky.
See, I don't remember that one.
Oh man, this
Oh,
video.
And then there
great.
was there.
So
then
funny.
there's I don't know if it was the same guy, but there was the Not Today. I don't know what the song was called, but it was a woman being interviewed, and there was a
Yeah, it was the
I do remember
precursor
that,
to
yeah.
that, the precursor to that, and the precursor to the Ain't Nobody Got Time, right? Like
Mhm.
there was that one. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah,
Ain't
yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
Got Time. Yeah, there's that one. Too.
So we did a couple of our own songs, and then we made a mashup of Double Rainbow and the Ben the Intruder song, and we thought that'll be funny to do.
But we did it. The reason why we did it is because neither of us are lead guitar players, or
Right.
at the time we
Right.
were not lead guitar players. And there was a solo during the song, and I was like, we have to do something else
Yeah.
between this. And it happened to be one of the first songs I wrote for my wife.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was me trying to woo her while we were dating.
Right.
And in between, I was like, well, we were married already. And I was like, yeah, we got to put something else there. And he was like, you want to do Double Rainbow and Ben the Intruder? I was like, yeah.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
that we ruined.
Yeah.
Is there a video of that somewhere?
There is.
There is.
There
and
is.
It shows up online every couple of years. It shows up.
Of your
Someone
mashup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone reposts it too. Like we'll get a repost. Your wife reposts it sometimes.
Yeah. It's
Sometimes it's a fan of one of our bands that'll repost it, and I'll be like, "Hey, remember this?"
and it's funny every time we're tagged in it. It's like, man, can you believe it's been 8 years?
Right? Like we did
Oh,
this.
Wow.
man, yeah. So
I'm gonna have to check that out after we're done with this.
Yeah,
we'll send you a link.
So we did that, and when we did that, we were like, "What are we going to call ourselves?" And I don't remember where I heard it. And now, like, what was it? I read some interview, and I think it was with a professional wrestler, and they were like, they were talking about weird things they find on the road, and they said that they were on the road and they saw a T-shirt that said "Bacon is my passion," and they're a vegan. So they bought a T-shirt that said "Bacon is my passion," and I was like, "Bacon is my passion" is going to be my next band's name. And so I went to Mike and I was
Okay.
like, "How about Bacon is my passion?" And he was like, "Yes. Why would that all day? Yes." And so we went to the show, and it was so funny because the person announcing us really wanted to announce both of our band names and be like, "This is Jimmy from Craving Strange, and this is Mike from Last Run on Broadway." No, FFR at the time, Further From Resolution. And we were like, "Nope. You are only going to announce us as Bacon is my passion." She was like, "What?" And so we were announced as Bacon is my passion. It was this fun little one-off thing that we did. And all these years later, when we started doing this, I was like, what about bacon as my podcast? And we just find out what kind of, we talked about it. And we were like, let's find out what makes people's lives better. Like music makes our life better.
Right.
Comic books make our life better. Movies make our life better. And it's like, that's that extra side that you don't absolutely need or have to have, but you kind of need and have to have because it makes it better, just like bacon happens to be on your
us.
plate.
Yeah.
And that's really where it came from. It
Yeah.
just it kind of was born out of that, and we were like, oh man, we can just talk about this and find out what people love.
Awesome. So, obviously, not as much like emphasis on the actual bacon, but more on the analogy of it. you know?
Exactly.
And that's totally cool. But obviously, you're both bacon lovers as well. So, what's the most interesting like bacon dish or like something that had bacon in it that you've had?
I'll let you go.
You know how
first.
like there's like
Okay.
there's like chocolate covered bacon
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. You know.
So in Denver, Colorado, they had something called, I think it was like they called it like crack bacon or something.
Crack
And
bacon.
it was at this, I don't remember the name of the place. But it was basically like just brown sugar and peppered bacon. And it was delicious. That was probably one of my favorite ones.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good. As far as most interesting, so we've got a Patreon that we tend to will eat awful things,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes,
Of course.
yeah.
Right.
But anytime we run across something that is bacon something, we'll pick it up.
We got to try it.
So we did try bacon soda. So in terms of interesting things,
Bacon soda, like drink, like
Yeah,
soda,
yeah,
like
soda.
soda pop, like
That's what they. That's
Okay.
what they claimed.
that's what they claimed. We also
okay. So it didn't taste like bacon.
no.
No.
What did
It's a-
it taste like?
It tasted like the back inside of a knee pad.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
that,
or
that was
like-
the olive one.
I
No,
see,
I'm sorry.
That's my
The
favorite
ranch
thing to
soda one.
eat on a hot summer's day. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
a back
or
of
like,
a back of a knee pad, just
Like the back side of a weight belt
mm.
in a gym
Oh.
somewhere.
See, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that tasted
That's
like.
that's good stuff.
We do have like for later episodes. I actually have
Mhm.
bacon cotton candy on deck.
Oh wow, that sounds. I think I may have. I had something like that one time. It might have been bacon cotton candy.
Oh,
I
yeah?
can't
Which
remember. I'm second guessing, but I think it was bacon flavored. And I think it tasted pretty good if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of
Okay.
bacony things.
We had a bacon box sent to us.
yeah
Nice.
bacon wrap dates I had once, and they were delicious.
Huh, that's interesting.
And that was a really interesting, like sweet and salty kind of like. It was like an appetizer at this bar I went to called the Black Sparrow in
Okay.
downtown Lafayette, Indiana.
Is that where you're from?
I'm
Or
from-
when you were in Indiana.
Yes, I grew up in West Lafayette, Indiana. That's where I went to like high school and some college and stuff. I went to Purdue for a little
Okay.
bit.
Nice.
And yeah, the Black Sparrow's a pretty cool bar down in the like downtown Lafayette area.
Mhm.
And they had bacon wrap dates, and they were absolutely delicious.
Man,
That's good.
that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I looked up bacon crack, and yeah, it is a thing.
Yeah.
Man, I just imagine like some guy walking up and be like, "You want some bacon crack?" You know, like
Well, so I went to Colorado for a cousin's wedding,
I'd be
Uh-huh.
tempted.
and they were like, and they went to we went to this breakfast spot. I forget what the name of it is. It might have been Sugar or something. I don't know, but it was brunch, and his fiance was like, "Oh, you want some crack bacon?" And I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that. Really?
Yeah, like I don't know if I should say yes. Like, is this
Is this a test?
or is actual crack or um,
Yes, he
so
said with hesitance.
Yeah.
yes. I'm trying to look and see what the ingredients are. Okay, so saltine crackers, unsalted butter, and yeah, you said brown sugar, light brown
Brown sugar,
sugar,
yeah.
and bacon.
And there was definitely some pepper in there.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, you could. Obviously put anything you want in there, but this particular recipe, yeah, that's what they're. That looks interesting. It kind of, it's funny. You know what it kind of looks like? It kind of looks like when it's all when these bacon crackers, are like all done cooking. To me, it looks like uh, a pizza roll. Like the
Mhm.
uh,
Oh,
toast,
yeah.
Tostinos. It looks like that. It looks like one of those like exploded, and the like the pizza sauce and the cheese got all over the
Yes.
outside crust. Like that's what it looks like to me from these pictures. Like looking
Fun
at it now.
fact: if you want a bunch of those, put Totino's pizza rolls in an air fryer, and they'll all do that.
Yeah, they'll all
Really?
open up like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
immediately.
I still don't have an air fryer, but we've been talking about getting one at our house. I'm
Do
sure
it.
we'll end up. Well, I'm sure we'll end up doing that soon.
Recommend it.
If I could fit that in the air fryer, the pizza
Yeah.
in the air fryer,
Pizza, I
would
was
have
gonna
done it.
say, oh my god. I mean, do they make air fryers that big? Like
Well, it's
to
I
fit a
have
pizza in
one
there?
slice.
I have one that'll fit slices of pizza. It won't fit a whole
Mhm.
pizza,
Uh-huh.
but I have one that like opens like an oven and has shelves and
Oh,
you kind
okay.
of put stuff in it.
See, the one I have is just a bucket, and you
Yeah,
just
you
throw
got
the
the
whole
basket one.
the one. You can put one slice of pizza in.
Okay.
Sometimes two, if you really maneuver it properly.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to. That'll have to be something we try on the show sometime.
Yes.
So where does I mean, I know both of you are in bands. I know Mike specifically, you're in harder bands. But and then actually Jimmy, are you into harder music as well, or like the bands you were playing in previously or still play in? What is the genre?
So for me, I love every genre of music that's possible.
Hmm.
But I have a very very clean high voice.
Yes.
It's just what I'm blessed or cursed with. So for me, like we write, and I do more of the. I guess if like you took Foo Fighters and Cheap Trick and Green Day and put them all in a fist fight, you would kind of get Craving Strange. That's kind of where we're at in that
Okay.
kind of genre thing. A lot of pop stuff, a lot of punk stuff, a lot of rock stuff. And then at different times, I'll throw in dance influences and funk influence and whatever kind of I feel like needs to happen at the time. Whatever's hitting me in a certain way.
Yeah,
I'll kind of throw in.
whatever you're listening to at that moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where does pop punk come in for you guys? For either one of you, where does that come into your life? I mean,
Oh man,
when were
I
you
could-
first introduced to it? Or I mean, I would hope that you're fans of pop punk and being on Pop Punk and Pizza,
Mhm.
because that's
Well-
something like we actually have never talked about. And I'm like, are they actually fans of pop punk? Like, I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna find out.
Yeah. Well,
So-
for me, like in high school, even before high school, shit, man. Green Day, like I was in 5th grade, and Dookie was out, and that was like, that's what I wanted to do. In my talent show in 5th grade, I actually did the secret track. We did, a friend of mine.
How did you
And
get away with that?
Nice.
We did the secret
Nice, I
track,
didn't know
and
that. That's
I
great.
lip synced to it. Yeah. And
But-
everybody was like, "What is happening?" I was that guy with the jukebox where you're just like, "Hey, how do I make everything uncomfortable. Okay,
Right.
I'm gonna do this.
But how did you get away with that?
They didn't listen to it beforehand, I guess.
Okay, but so I mean, so for those that don't know, because I know not everyone is Green Day fans, or even if you are, some people don't know about the secret track
Right.
because I mean, let's say you were introduced to Green Day, where we're living in an age where you stream the album. I don't know if the secret song is available. Like if you're
Oh, man.
streaming,
I haven't checked on streaming
That's a
actually.
good
That's-
question.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I would assume it is,
I
but.
would think so.
Anyway, so yeah, there's the secret song in Dookie at the very end of the album. If you play out the last song of all that dead air, it's Trey Cool with a guitar singing this very silly song about like how he went over to his girlfriend's house and she wasn't there, so he decided to just play all. It's called All by Myself, and so he decided to play with himself.
He decided to do it all by himself.
It is actually a track in itself.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on Spotify. Okay,
It is-
so
it
All
is
by
an actual
Myself
track.
by Green Day.
Yep. Nobody listened to the lyrics prior to it. There was a very poor screening process, so I lip synced it.
Apparently,
And yeah,
but
that was
but
good.
but like afterwards, like after the thought, did you get in trouble for it?
no, nobody. Everybody was like, "That was great," and I was like, "Okay."
Wow. And it's funny, you did pick like the perfect song to like make things awkward because that is so awkward. Like
Yeah.
if you're actually performing that song, no one like really knows it. And they're like, okay. Like, all right,
Yeah, I mean,
next.
yeah, exactly. And then after that was like a thing to You Got a Friend in Me. Everybody dressed up like Toy Story
Oh, okay.
things and did like a dance. So I don't know. I
Green
guess
Day to Randy Newman. All right.
Yeah,
Hey.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, for me personally, like Green Day, Insomniac is one of my favorite albums ever.
Yeah.
Huge
100%.
influence on me. And then just growing up in the early 2000s, the Mest and Blink 182 and Good Charlotte kind of, I wasn't a huge fan of Good Charlotte. I learned to appreciate them eventually, but yeah, like Mest and that kind of
Dudes could
stuff.
write a
was
hook,
my-
man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I saw someone post online the other day. One of my friends, I think it was on Facebook. They posted like, how did Mest not become
Huge.
bigger than
Yeah.
than they were? And that was actually like he said that and followed by, 'cause damn, those guys could write some hooks, and
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's so many different things that that feed into that. Getting to that, why didn't they become not like the biggest band, but one of the mid-level,
Why aren't they one of the ones that more people talk about or cite?
mhm.
Because I guarantee
Exactly.
they influence more people than you understand that they influenced.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, they influenced me so. I mean, besides Green Day, we all went through our phases as kids
Yeah.
or as musicians, and I remember Mest was one of my phases that I was completely obsessed with, sounding like Tony Lovato, writing like Tony Lovato, looking like Tony Lovato, like I just and the same thing happened with, trying to emulate Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day. Like I totally went through those phases,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, like I was kind of weird in terms of where I stood with my music when I started writing, because I always gravitated more toward the alternative rock or heavier stuff or whatever. And but like we would always just play with pop punk bands and all the time they would always be like, hey, like my bassist isn't going to make it to a show, can you play? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
My guitar player isn't going to make it. So I always played in pop punk things just because it's fun. It's I love it. And now here we are, years later, and we have a lot of pop punk bands on our show.
Mhm.
That's another thing. Like, we had Weather State a couple weeks ago, from over in the UK. Title Holder is going to be on.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of like ska punk bands, and it's kind of brought me back into that scene a little bit.
So what's it like kind of getting back in that scene? What has that process been like? What are some things that have like come back to you, or some artists that you're like, "Oh, I completely forgot about that band," or, you know.
Well, I mean, just talking to Title Holder and him bringing up, like, I've been a fan of Less Than Jake forever, and but I haven't listened to them in a while. And him bringing
Mhm.
up Less Than Jake made me be like, "Oh my god!" Like,
Yeah.
like, why haven't I listened to this in such a long time? But bands like Less Than Jake and bands like Goldfinger and um, and on like, I'm probably terrible at knowing uh what the label of pop punk
Well,
means.
dude, I
Yeah.
mean,
Because I love
it's a
bands that
personal preference, I feel like, at
yeah,
this point,
but like,
you
to
know.
me, if you've got the punk attitude and you've got pop hooks, you're pop punk.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's songs from
S-
Rancid that I
Yeah.
would say are pop punk songs.
It's funny you say that because your answer is exactly the same answer as Vinny of Less Than Jake gave me
Okay.
in the past. Like, that is his definition. I remember him saying the exact same thing on the show.
Well, yeah.
Good. Then
Yeah.
I know it's right.
I mean,
that I'm not gonna.
he's one of the veterans
Yeah.
of the same. Maybe not, obviously when you think pop punk, you don't think of Less Than Jake, but I feel like people should, because
I
there
feel like
actually
I
is
do.
there's a ton of Less Than Jake material that is actually pop punk,
Mhm.
and people just don't want to admit it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for as
Yeah,
the
I think
other thing
hooks,
too,
man.
and
Hooks are there. Like,
and-
I think Alkaline Trio has some pop punk songs. I think
Oh,
Goldfinger has
absolutely.
pop punk songs.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people immediately go to like Newfound Glory, Blink 182, or they'll jump on to Green Day, or
Mhm.
which I agree is there.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Hundred
love 'em all.
percent. But I just tend to think that, man, if you've got like that punk attitude and those, if your music is drum and bass driven with heavy guitar and it's hooky as hell, and you've got attitude, you're playing a pop punk song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I-
Like, what ingredients aren't there for you that don't
Yeah.
make it that?
I also think in a lot of cases too, like there was just a point where pop punk was on Warped Tour, and Warped Tour just kind of created this huge umbrella,
Mhm.
right? So there were pop punk bands, and there were emo bands, and there
Mhm.
were metalcore bands, and there were like, if you just adjust a little bit, you got a band like 4 Years Strong,
Yeah.
you adjust a little bit more, you get a band like Silverstein, you adjust a little bit more. So I almost feel like they kind of all in their own ways do have pop punk sensibilities and qualities to it.
Well, it's all there, you know.
Yes, I was
You
gonna
come down,
say.
you get like 5 seconds of summer. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
it's all there.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, and I agree with that. I mean, obviously, you get more technical, and people are well, 4 Years Strong, that's easy core, and so
Right,
so that's like a whole nother, like, that's like pop punk and what, metalcore or hardcore,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like it's crazy that pop punk technically has subgenres.
Right.
Isn't that funny? Because pop punk is a subgenre, but it in itself has subgenres. It's
Do
just
you think I wonder if pop punk has subgenres because people, for whatever reason, some people for whatever reason have like an adverse reaction to saying that they like pop punk.
I think it's a stigma kind of thing. Like,
So
they have a stigma.
They have to
because
say, "Oh, I like easy core," and it's like,
People think
you
pop
like
punk-
pop punk. It's okay.
people
Like,
think pop punk, and they're like, oh, well,
own it, love it.
TRL.
Yeah, own it, love it.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, I think there's many different reasons for it. That might be one of them.
Hmm.
And another might be the people that I guess the term would be, what is it, gatekeepers, right?
Right. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ones that's if you don't sound like the the pioneers from the 90s and the early 2000s, then you're not pop punk, you know.
Right.
Um, so there's that too, I feel
Hmm.
like. So yeah, that is one of the many factors that feed into it. But so Mike, it sounds like your go-to like pop punk band or pop punk oriented band would be Green Day,
Yeah, I guess
right?
so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say,
And
or mess.
so for you, Jimmy, who's your go-to?
Um, I would say Green Day's probably up there as one. I also love Newfound Glory, but I don't know if they count
Yeah.
as pop
Well,
punk.
Oh, they
I
do.
guess
But
I guess specify who's your go-to and why. I mean, I feel like Mike kind of specified
well,
that.
for me, it's like if it sticks with me and it makes me want to learn it, and I sing it when the song's over, then that becomes a go-to.
Yeah.
I've never been like I'm not one of those people that like for whatever reason I don't like a band and then listen to every single thing that they have and listen to albums beginning to end and stuff like I end up getting bored no matter what kind of music it is. So I tend to like shuffling around a lot between things. So if a band has something that really sticks with me and makes me come back to it, um, and when I look at that, like Blink 182 has a number of songs that I come back to forever. Green Day has a number of songs that I'll come back to forever. That I heard them and I immediately went, I got to figure this out on guitar. I got to figure out what the vocal melody is. I have to do like when I was growing up and becoming a guitar player when I was like a wee little nard, learning how to do things, figuring stuff out.
Wee little nard.
Yeah, it's like
What's a nard?
that's what I was. I was a
A na-
nard.
That's what I
That's a
was. A nard.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a it's a nerd that's a nerd for music and comics and pop music.
Okay.
That's
All right. I like that.
I
I'm
just
gonna
defined it.
start.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I start using that? Is that cool?
Please do.
Okay. Cool.
We're gonna make
Awesome.
it a thing.
Yeah. Let's make it a thing. Let's make
Yeah.
that I'm a nard. I
I'm
love
a
it.
nard.
Yeah.
I'm a nard.
I love
So
that.
it
Absolutely.
was like it was a combination of all those things for me. So if I walked around singing the songs, man, that was what it was.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I walked around the minute I heard Blink 182, I sang all their songs and I knew where all their songs were going and I knew how to what they were about, and it was great. And Green Day's the same way for me, and Mest was the same way for me. But then I also really got into kind of like I got into Real Big Fish and I got into Less Than Jake and I got into and I don't know if they count, but I love the
Yeah.
hooks and I love the poppy stuff and I love so I don't know. I don't know if I count. I don't know. Do I
I
not?
think
Do I
that
not get to join the club?
I think I feel like they count, but that I don't know if that's just because I like them as well,
Right.
or if it's because they also have elements of pop punk. You
Yeah.
know, but they also have, especially with like bands like Real Big Fish. Well, I guess you could say the same thing even about Less Than Jake and Goldfinger and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, they're classified as ska punk.
Right.
But there's and if you listen to interviews of Aaron Barrett, he's of Real Big Fish, he's talked about how he just kind of like mishmashed all these different genres together because like you'll hear a song that sounds like so classic rock, you know,
Hmm.
but then you'll hear other songs that it sounds more like a punk song. And then there's other songs where it's like sounds more like a ska song. And then other songs sounds more like a reggae song. And then there's like, oh, this song has blues riffs in it. And then so it's like I got all this, you know, he's got all this Real Big Fish has all these different things
Yeah.
going on.
Well, I think genre bending is I think genre bending is punk rock. I
Yeah.
think and I never wanted to when I first started to want to write and be in a band and being a musician, I never wanted to make an album of 8 songs that sounded the same. I never wanted to make I never wanted to make an album that I couldn't put a funk bass on, or I couldn't put a pop chorus on, or I couldn't decide to put a death metal breakdown on if I felt like it.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's what is punk.
Mhm.
Punk is not caring and saying, I'll do whatever I want, because you have bands that, hey, we're going to put horns in this. Okay, are you a ska band? Well,
No.
horns aren't in all our songs. Okay, well, do you count?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or we put, we have upstrokes in this song. Okay, well, you don't have upstrokes in any other song. Are you a ska band? Well, no. Is Rancid a ska band? I don't know. Maybe to some people they are. Maybe they got a lot of ska songs. So to me, that's the punk rock part of it. Is I'm going to add in whatever genre I feel like, and then the pop part of it is I'm going to give you hooks that you're going to sing along with, and I'm going to give you things like great melodies. I'm going to give you vocal harmonies. I'm going to give you these undeniable things that you would only hear in a pop song, and then when you mix those two things together, that to me is pop punk. So I guess I have a hard time with definitions like that. So I'm just kind of like, don't you tell me what a
Well, I think I mean you nailed it. You nailed it on the head. I think, that's there's as I've said, and I probably said on your show too. There's so many different styles of
yeah.
There's so many different versions of pop punk that it's at this point it's just like, yeah, that's pop punk, like
Right.
Yeah.
So, that. Yeah, I just you took the words right out of my mouth, Jimmy. So
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. Mike, you mentioned earlier. You mentioned Warped Tour, being a big part of pop punk, but then all under this big umbrella, all these other genres, that are in the alternative world. And I haven't talked about this on the show yet, but I thought maybe it would be a good time to talk about it with you guys. Is that when we were Young Fest? I mean, people have been talking about this ever since it was released, and I'd love to hear what your guys' take is on We Were Young Fest happening in Las Vegas later this October.
So when you initially see, it's like going through phases. So you initially saw that post and you're like, that's not real. That's just somebody putting stuff up, and
Someone
that's
photoshopped
super
something.
cool.
I think that was the whole point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're
That
like,
was
what
definitely
if
put out?
they're like, what if we just made a festival with like we make a festival that like makes one of those fake flyers come
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So that was my first thought, and then the second thought was, wow, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I think, and it's maybe it's weird, but I think the thing that tipped it off for me, that made me go, maybe this is real, is that I Prevail was on it.
Okay.
And I was like, that's either a mistake or this is legit.
And why do you say that?
I Prevail, they've only been around for what, 6 years
like
or
that.
so.
Okay.
You get all the other bands were when we were young. Like when I was younger, those were the bands, and I Prevail is probably around my age, if not.
I mean,
younger.
they have the list of young bands on the We Were Young Festival is very, very small. I mean, Meet Me at the Altar is another one. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the few that,
It's built on nostalgia, and then there's a few.
Yes,
there's
like,
a
hey,
few
these guys will
sprinkles of there's a few sprinkle of new bands,
But what I don't love about it is that it's in Las Vegas, and there's
Vegas.
well, you know what? It's not a Warped Tour.
Yeah.
It's in Las Vegas, so it's a destination. You do have to travel. You do have to get lodging. if you're not from Nevada, then it's also like insanely expensive for a ticket. Warped Tour used to be like what, $40,
Till the end, yeah.
40, $50. And, so yeah, I like, and then you see stuff about like Firefest, and you see stuff about like
Right.
all these other festivals where you're like, too good to be true. And it was too good to be true. And now on top of that, you've got a pandemic. And I mean, things are getting better ish, but things were not better even 2 weeks ago, So do I want to spend this much money in the middle of a pandemic, like to go to this show that also I've watched a documentary on festivals that were too good to be true? Like, do I want to do all that? So I think maybe it's the adult in me that's kind of just very skeptical on the whole thing. I think it's awesome. I think it's super cool. It does give you Warped Tour vibes because there are so many good bands, and you're like, okay, well, how do I fit them all in? Because obviously some
all
are going to
one
be
day.
paying some are going to be playing at the same time as other ones, and we're going to have to walk around.
And and that's where the Warp Tour part comes in,
Yeah.
because you never get to see, there was always those situations at Warp Tour where it's like, oh, but Motion City Soundtrack is playing at the
Right.
same time as,
Oh, you know what? They're a pop punk band that I love. That I can't believe that I didn't think of their name, because I love Motion City Soundtrack.
The other thing
Oh
too
my God.
is like
they're so good.
the other thing
So good.
too
I
is
saw
like,
them at the Paramount, and they were amazing.
I
love that show.
remember like Warped Tour, anybody you went with, like if you weren't driving, everybody was like, yeah, we'll get there. And it's like, no, you don't understand. We got to get there at 11 when the doors open. So this way at 11:10, when the first band is on, we're there to see them.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. It's like, no, they don't.
You
have
don't
the same
understand.
sets all the time.
Right.
So somebody we want to see,
Whoever you love could be that 11
could
a.m.
be
band.
11:10.
Yeah.
And that, but
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it. I would love to go. I would also love it not to be a pandemic. I would also love for it not to cost an arm and a leg to do. It was like, wow, this is one show and it's a once in a lifetime thing. And now they're like, here's day 3. And I get texts every 2 days. You got to come to day 3. Okay. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, my first reaction was I want to go.
Mhm.
Absolutely, my first reaction was I want to go. My second after thinking about it was like, how much is it? And then I was like, man, like I am not a I'm not a nostalgic person. I don't get the fuzzies about stuff from my high school. I love new things. I love new bands. I love hearing something I've never heard before. I don't get in my car and put on an old record that I've heard 100 times. I'm just not that person. I just don't do it. So as much as
That's the musician and the song, that's the songwriter in you.
Yeah.
I feel like,
it definitely that's definitely that part of me.
Yeah.
I don't hate old things. I'm not against them.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not
obviously,
like,
you
"Oh,
just
turn this
mentioned
off."
Motion City Soundtrack. You just mentioned them.
Yeah.
So,
when
I
I
mean,
hear it,
it's-
I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
But whether
but-
you're going to go out of your way to invest a lot of
to-
money,
to choose to do something that's completely based on like when we were young.
Mm.
The whole selling point is that the fact that the bands are getting like 15-minute sets, that to me makes me go, man, I don't want to see them for 15 minutes, because all they're going to do is the 3 songs that I've heard 1,000 times. I'm not going to hear what they're doing now. I'm not going to hear what they're doing new. And so like I went through a conflicting thing, because it was like, at first I was like, man, I want to go. I want to go to Vegas. I want to fly to Vegas to see this show, because what an experience and what a fun time that would be. and I love experience. Like I'm all about that. Like, let's do this thing. Um, I'm more likely to go to that show because it's in Vegas and I have to fly there and go do that and make a thing out of it than if it was in Long Island and I could just go there and it's my backyard.
Yeah.
Because the experience is going to be more interesting to me because it's somewhere different, something different. But once I look at it and I'm like, oh man, there's not really any new, there's only a few new bands on the show. It's 15 minutes a set. So every band's going to get to play like 3 of their hits, except for like the Used in My Chemical Romance, which I love both of those bands. And I would love to go see both of those bands. And I'm totally down for that. I love the Used new record, like I'm totally down for all that. But it's just going to be a bunch of stuff that I've already seen because I've seen almost every single band that's on there live multiple times, and I'd rather see their full set.
I also think that if you took the time to really think about it, the bands that you would really, really want to see, you'd get a full set out of, and you'd probably pay the same if you just waited around for them to come by.
Yeah, they're all still doing things.
I've seen Red Jumpsuit,
Right.
and I'd gladly go see them again. I've seen Atreyu and Silverstein and I Prevail and all those bands. So yeah, I would almost like a guarantee that I'm going to get to see a set rather than okay, well, these guys are going to go on for X amount of minutes.
I'll wait and I'll go pay to see
Warped Tour was a little different because it was you could go to your backyard. It was $50 and you knew what you were getting. Okay, everybody gets 25-minute sets and that's it. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Dark comes, you're going home.
I feel like my take on it. I feel like whose ever idea this was genius as far as marketing goes because
100%.
everybody is talking about it. And that right there. And the reason why everybody is talking about it is for the same reasons you guys just said.
Yeah.
Like the same reason, because everyone's going to be like, well, there's all these incredible bands, but they're all playing like, and it's one day and it's 12 hours long. And it's just like, it was, I don't know. It's just like it's the marketing behind it to me is so genius. So that's what wraps me up in this thing. And as far as like, I don't think it'll turn into like another, Too Good to Be True festival. I think it'll be good because this is pretty much what Warped Tour was, but this is all in one location. So it should actually be easier to do since it's not being moved around the country, And the price another thing that makes me laugh about the price tag of it is the fact that they know millennials so well that they give you the payment plan.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That made me laugh so hard. I'm like, man, like they just freaking like they know millennials so well with like what they're doing with their money and knowing that they don't have all of that money to spend up front. So we're going to make a payment plan. Of course,
everything you do is a subscription. This is that.
It's just, you're right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at first I had some, don't get me wrong. I've got my concerns, just like some of the same things you guys are bringing up. I mean, it's all valid points, but I feel like if a person wanted to, relive Warped Tour and like the bands that they cared about the most, I feel like this is the festival,
It's
like
gonna be
for
awesome.
that. Yeah, I mean,
I get that, but at the same point, was it just before the pandemic? So Warped Tour ended.
Mm-hmm.
They were off for a year, and then they were like, "Oh well, we're going to do another Warped Tour, and it's going to be one day, and it's just going to be in New Jersey."
Right.
And it's like,
No, they did 3.
no, 3. That's right.
They did 3 cities, and
Chicago.
that was not a surprise. Kevin Lyman did say that they were going to do something to celebrate their 20. I think that was the 25th or the 30th anniversary. I think it was
I think it was
25th.
25th.
Yeah. So no, he did say that they were going to do something to celebrate their 25th anniversary.
Well, it's kind of like the Lollapalooza model, right? Like,
Well, Lollapalooza was a traveling tour until
right, and then
Now
I forget
it's
which year it was.
It moved to just a few shows a year, and it's kind of, that makes sense too. Like,
Yeah.
take your thing that you've created, and you've created a brand,
Yeah.
and then say, okay, we're going to do this in the cities that were the biggest for that brand, and we're going to do it limited shows, and it's going to drive more people to it, and it's
You're
going
gonna
to
do a
cost less to
destination.
do it, and it's going to be a destination thing.
Yeah. When I had Kevin on the show this last summer, he didn't really say like there was ever going to be anything for sure. He did mention that he did really like the Warped at Sea that they did one year. He seemed to be attached to, maybe, who knows, maybe at some point
Yeah.
doing that again. But I mean, it's hard to say.
That'd
But
be
he did
fun.
he did mention that was a really good run.
Something that I would love to do one of those like the cruises, like a show cruise. My wife, she doesn't do well on cruises,
Right.
so
I've never been on
it-
one.
I was fine. She had a hard time. But they have
I did one. I
things.
had a good time too.
Yeah, but I would love to go on like a shipwrecked or a warped at sea or whatever. Those are really cool. And the other thing too is I almost feel like it would be with bands that know, all right, I'm on a boat with however many thousand people, and there's a very good chance that I'm going to be eating in the same space as those people. So I need to like know that I'm going to be sharing a space. They're going to probably be coming up to me, and they've got to be interested in actually doing that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And from what I've heard and talked to people that went on like Warped at Sea, that's exactly what it was like. They were telling me they were bumping into members of bands constantly when there weren't any shows going on. They'd be going to like whatever it was, the arcade or the, any of the activities that a cruise ship has. They would go to them and they'd find, so and so there from X band.
Well,
Yeah,
you're captive. You can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, imagine that. Like, hey, listen, we want to pay you to be on this cruise. Also, you're going to be on this cruise, so you can get paid to do something you love and also be on a cruise. And it's like, I like that.
Yeah. I know that like the big cruise that was just announced was the Emo's Not Dead tour,
Mm-hmm.
or cruise, excuse me. And that looks decent too.
Who's on that?
Newfound Glory, Under Oath.
Oh, right, Under Oath.
and-
That's
yeah.
right. I sent that to Jen, and she's like, Under Oath, emo. Yeah, I was like, yeah, of course. The first record, of course.
If you came out during a certain time period, you're under the genre of that time period.
I know Silverstein is on that too,
That's all
right?
the- that's what
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they are. Let's see. For
But I
some
think
reason-
I think all these shows and all these tours, like, I think they're great. I think they're awesome. Like, whether me as a jaded weirdo is gonna go.
Oh,
to 'em or
Dashboard
not,
Confessional. That's
Right,
That's
Dashboard.
right. They were the big.
Dashboard.
They were the
yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Dashboard and Under Oath, I think, are the two biggest names.
Mhm.
Thursday is also on there. Oh yeah, of course, Plain White Tees, which I was happy to see Plain White Tees on the lineup because I feel like they get left out of a lot of things.
Yes.
So
I
that
agree.
was cool to see that.
Thursday. That's awesome.
Yeah, Thursday.
awesome.
I actually saw them just before the pandemic, and when they
Oh,
like
nice.
first got
They've been
back
on
together.
tour. They've been on tour this year. This winter.
I think they were supposed to have their like hometown show at Starland Ballroom, which we could get into it again, like whatever. I will go to Starland Ballroom in Jersey before I will go to New York City for a show any day of the week. But yeah, that's like their hometown show place. So,
Okay.
but something happened where they couldn't do it, and they ended up moving it to Irving Plaza in the city.
Oh, gotcha. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we're actually overtime. All I
Yeah,
had to
we
do
do
was
that.
ask about when we were young, and that just I just had to ask that question, didn't I? But no, I loved obviously loved your answers, and just it's something I have not mentioned on the podcast yet, and I'm like, yeah, we should probably talk about this, and so I thought you guys would have a good perspective on it, especially considering you're not only fans, but you're both musicians and songwriters and in bands yourself. So it kind of gives a different perspective. I
Right.
feel
Yeah.
like
I'd love to play on it.
Yeah.
Book us. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. So Bacon is my podcast. Where can everyone find Bacon is my podcast, whether it's the actual podcast or find you guys on socials?
Well, you know what? The easiest way is to just go to baconismypodcast.com. We have a website, and on there, not only can you see podcast episodes, you can get to our merch page, which helps us keep the show running. You can also check out all our sponsors, which that also helps to keep the show running. You can get links to our Patreon and all that kind of stuff, baconismypodcast.com. If you don't feel like doing that, you can definitely check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to your podcasts.
Yep. And on all the social medias, we got at Bacon is my pod. We're on Instagram. We're on the Facebook, even though it's for old people. That's what I'm being told.
Like us, it's yeah,
Right.
Yeah. The Twitter.
We're not on MySpace. So.
And now,
Oh man, you got to get on MySpace.
Oh, I know we gotta get that. But
Newly.
as of this week, my wife guilted me into starting a TikTok.
Yes,
Nice.
TikTok.
So at Bacon is my pod on all of those platforms. Use the promo code, the hashtag what's your bacon, and yeah, we'd love to know what your bacon is.
Yeah, hit us up.
Awesome.
Definitely talk to us.
Cool.
We answer any comments, emails, anything like that. You can get a hold of us directly through our website, like I said, baconismypodcast.com, or if you're on Twitter, just hashtag what's your bacon, hashtag bacon is my pod, or hashtag bacon pod, like any of that stuff, and we'll see it and we will converse with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm really glad we could do this because it kind of gives my listeners a chance to be like, okay, I want to listen to other podcasts, but what other podcast do I listen to? Well, Bacon is my podcast. There's one you can check out right now. So
we love the same thing having you on ours. It was the same exact thing.
Dude,
it was like, let's get some trade.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That was a lot of fun. It was really an honor to be on Bacon is my podcast. So
thank you. Well, the honor is shared now that we have been on.
Yeah, and we had pizza. I mean, this doesn't get much
so
better
delicious.
than that. So yeah, shout out to Lou Malnati's and Nicoletta, right?
Nicoletta, yep.
Nicoletta, excuse me, Nicoletta. Yes. So whether you're in Chicago, New York, I mean, check either, or what's I guess we should mention, we obviously had these shipped to us, so some that are not familiar with how that works. So what's cool is both of those pizzerias will ship frozen pizzas to you via dry ice, and it'll arrive safely and fresh right at your door, and you can just cook it in your own oven. And it literally, like, I bit into this, I felt like I was eating it like it was just down like there was a restaurant down the street. There was a Nicoletta's down the street. Like it tasted like that to me. So
same with this. It was so delicious. It felt like it just got made.
It looked like you had slices, and personally, I like slices that are like redone. So if they've been sitting in the glass for like 2 or 3 hours, and then you throw it back in the oven, that's the way to go.
I don't know if you went straight through Lou Malnati's. Is that what you did?
Well, they ship their pizzas via Taste of Chicago.
Okay.
Lou Malnati's does. And so, like,
I got
Taste
the
of Chicago.
brochures. Looks great.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say Taste Chicago has the Portillos and Garrett's popcorn and all kinds of other incredible Chicago brands as well. But
Awesome. And we used a
yeah.
site called Goldbelly. So anywhere you
Yes,
are
I
in the
did see
country,
that.
yeah, anywhere you are in the country, you can go online and check them out, and they will send. I saw Luminati's on Goldbelly, so I thought
Oh,
maybe that's
okay.
what you used. Um,
No.
but yeah, they will ship from anywhere to you. You can check out, like, if you're like, oh, I want to know what what the I want wings from Buffalo.
Yeah.
You can get wings from Buffalo,
Yeah.
or you can get the Cincinnati spaghetti.
Oh yeah. Right.
You can get that sent to you.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm
or
sure they have bagels.
pizza from Chicago, pizza from New York. So
yeah.
we used them and it worked great, because, like you said, yours was delicious. Ours was absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So I have no problem. Not a sponsor, but they should sponsor both our shows.
Yes.
There you go. Hey, maybe it'll happen.
Maybe it'll happen.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of the night. Thank you so much for having pizza with me.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you for
sending
hanging
it.
out with us.
Yeah. Of course. Have a great rest of the night.
You too, man. Thanks.
Thank you. No problem. All right, let's give those guys another round of applause. Mike and Jimmy of Bacon Is My Podcast. So when you're not listening to episodes of Pop Punk and Pizza, I just said pizza, pizza, please show them some love and support and check out their podcast. I had a blast being on theirs. And that does it for this episode. I'm Jacques Lamour. Thank you so much for downloading this podcast. I hope you check out some others if you haven't done so already. Please leave us a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at Pop Punk Pizza Pod. You can also go to poppunkpizzapod.com to find links to platforms and also sign up for our mailing list, order merch, all that fun stuff, poppunkpizzapod.com. We do have a Facebook group as well that you can join if you want to talk with other listeners of the podcast, and just kind of another place to stay in the loop on what's happening. It's just a place where, we can all interact. So look for that and ask to join, and I'll accept you there. And, of course, our theme song is sung by the amazing Chris DeMakes of Less Than Jake.
Hey, hello, it's nice to meet